to reproach me for his death.
Love of my life, my dear. And there's nobody who can change that, darling.
Now, all we need to do is move on to the second phase of the plan. You'll love this, because this is where you come in.
You have something stuck here, right over here.
Eduardo?
Don't let him get away!
What's going on?
Hang on, hang on.
Deal na vitu vya art, vinyago, kurembesha nyumba na pia kutengeneza kitu kama maframes, masaa na vitu vingi kulingana na mteja vile anataka. Tuseme ni kama talent tu juu. Si ati ni shule nilienda mahali nikasoma. Ukinielezea unaweza taka kitu tuseme kama meza inakaa hivi na hivi na hivi. Na nachukua hiyo information yako na i-translate na inakuwa reality, na pale natoka na kitu cha ajabu ambapo hata mimi kwangu inakuwa ni surprise. After nisha maliza shule form 4 nilienda home. Mimi sikuwa napenda wa idol, nikaanza tu kumake tu vitu tu simple kama ka message unaweka kwa cube yako. Wana marafiki wakikam, kila mtu anataka ana-admire hiyo kitu, then anakuambia si unaweza niuzie hii pati hata kama ni 100 bob. Nikaona ala, hii kitu naweza uza. Mwingine anakam akwambia ukimake kingine naweza taka hii kitu. Mwingine mpaka anasema naweza taka unitengeneze gift nipelekee rafiki wangu ama mtu ana birthday hivyo. So kidogo nikapata imegrow hivyo mpaka ikakuwa career. But time fulani ilifika, beshte yangu alikuwa na workshop ya carpentry. Ako interested na akani-invite kwa workshop yake nifanyiage hapo. Ndio nilikuwa nafanyia kwa cube. Sasa hapo ndio nipata na skills za carpentry. Nikalan na nikakuwa interested sana. Nikaingia sasa into furniture. Na translate meza ya kawaida na i-make na miti. Kama nikiona clock ya kawaida na i-translate inakuwa kitu Afrika. Sasa hii tuko kwa mmoja wa wateja wangu ambapo ni mmoja wa wateja wangu wakubwa. So nimekuwa nikimtengenezea piece by piece mpaka sasa nyumba yake imejaa. Hizi ni mbao zile prime, but nimetumia ujanja wangu kuipatia some artistic finishing. Kuna time hata unafanya job mpaka saa 7, kama jana usiku nitoka hapo saa 7. Isi disappoint customer. Then unamwambia unaweza kuwa unatarajia ati hii job yenye unaona ni smart hivi inapatia domo. The other thing, unaweza fikiria ati utakaa tu ukiwa msafi venye umeingia, lazima utapata vumbi ukienda kuchimba hizo mizizi. Juu pia mimi hutumia maroots kuitoa kwa matope ndio mpaka ing'are ikuwe kitu ati inaweza toka do. Unapata watu wengi hataki process. Value ya zile vitu tunajenga haiko that much appreciate, ama kupatana na ule mtu ana appreciate hiyo kitu ni ngumu. Na since una need to keep on moving, lazima umuuze hata kama ni cheap. Ni at least ungoje kaa kesho utapatana na huyo mtu anajua value hizo vitu na make. So hiyo ndio challenge ya kwanza market. The other thing ni semeka tools. Ningekuwa na tools kubwa ama much better kama hiza kutoka majuu. Ngambo wanatumia technology kali sana. Unapata wana machine, unaifeed information kwa computer, inakukatia mbao venye unataka. Sisi ni manual. Attitude ya art sahi, wengi wale hata akiona tu art anajua ni ya watu wa juu sana. Hizi ni vitu zile za wadosi. Hiyo attitude sasa ndio hata naweza himiza kwanza wa Kenya waache kabisa. Juu sahi kuwa smart si lazima ati ukue na do. Ni kujipanga na kuweka priorities zako vipo. Inspiration ni tuseme kwa clients, nikiona mtu amefurahia then Pia curiosity, nataka kujua nini ingine naweza make apart from ile naonaga ama ile nimemake. I'm looking forward kuwa nakaa kitu kaa go down, niwe na vijana wengi, nafunza job, hata ni shule nitafungua kitu kama hiyo. Alafu tuseme niwe nikaa mimi ndio tegemeo la East Africa hivi, kitu kama hiyo. Pia natarajia kubadilisha vitu kama unaona, kama sasa maofisi zinakaa tu zote ni kama kawaida. So unataka at least ati ukiingia kwa ofisi una expect meza fulani ndio utapata. Nataka at least ni badilisha hata hiyo concept ya ofisi. Mtu yote tu uko interested na art, mtu anapenda vitu unique, au ndio wateja wangu. Sasa hii ndio busy. Nakula, navaa, na dream hapo art.
Sacrifice, grace and mercy. Nothing they can do to stop this music. Don't lose your culture. Don't lose your culture.
Aggie, you didn't tell me you have a boyfriend.
Angie, if you don't mind, how old is he?
How about none of your business?
Asekinyanji, how do you know about my situation, eh? You've just described it perfectly.
Lara, what part was perfect? You having a kid or a wife?
Why are you poking your nose where it is not supposed to be poking? Let him ask for himself.
Yes, and the number you gave me goes to voicemail all the time. You know, I was thinking that maybe you called me.
Guys, you cannot leave this class. She's probably coming here.
Asisia, get out of my way. You are wasting my time, boy.
I want you to book a match between Jimmy Havoc and LA Park.
And it's going to be strong style at its finest.
Importantly, education level. Art, therefore, was all-inclusive channel for this purpose. A call for artists group of all genres to apply for funding and carry out this project was made. Many Kenyans were called out, but few were chosen, and Mukuru Art Club creatives are still nostalgic on making the cut.
We got an open call that was going around for artists in groups to apply for to be part of this project. And I understand here in Nairobi we had like 87 groups that had applied, and we were lucky to be one of the 7 groups that were picked. So we saw it on social media. Then we have one of our own who is really good in writing projects. So she did the writing of the project, and then we did a sketch. We came up with, we did a small meeting. We came up with a sketch, and so the whole mural, that's the sketch that we had. We just adjusted it a little bit, and we actually submitted it on the last day. And we were worried maybe we will not get picked, but we thank God, and we thank all the officials who were involved. They were very fair, and they sent us an email with a letter of acceptance, and here we are.
The idea was to make the message as relatable to the residents here in Mukuru as possible, and to pull that off, the local artists who understand the community were in a much better position.
the process took us living, and we shall overcome together.
I will only stop you from killing more people. And what if I kill you too?
Because I can't love you.
And she can't love you either.
If you really love Vicente as much as you say, then why haven't you reproached me for his death?
Love of my life, my dear. And there's nobody who can change that, darling.
Now, all we need to do is move on to the second phase of the plan. You'll love this. Because this is where you come in.
You have something stuck here, right over here.
Eduardo?
Don't let him get away!
What's going on?
Hang on real hard.
Unazungumza nini na maadui zetu wewe?
Ndio nipige kibao. Wajua nilikuwa niko karibu tu kupatana na Leo.
Yeye nifuatafuata na isiyo kunimaliza kabisa.
Watoto wa dadangu hata sijui kama ni wake.
Umaanisha nini?
Huoni kwamba wakati umefika wa kuungana na mimi? Umemwambia nini babako ulipoongea naye?
Nothing.
Ana?
Piki kinaendelea hapa.
Haijalishi kinachoendelea.
As you wish.
If the Emperor and her have a falling out, we may just have a second chance.
Shut up! Regardless of genders, she treats people. When did that become a crime to you?
I just wanted to help people. Those commissioners don't even know me.
You keep messing around. I can always resume my previous duties.
不想见那一人那一面，也不愿你我错过的流年。
The 12th day of October 2021 it is. Good morning and welcome to KBC Newscheck. And first, let me apologize for the slight delay in beginning of the program, but we are firmly on track. Today we are going to be talking about two issues currently hitting headlines in the country. First one, it's more or less on politics, where Makueni governor, according to research by ISS, has been voted as the most as number one in matters development, while his counterpart Wycliffe Oparanya has been voted as the most popular governor. Well, we will be discussing that in depth because, well, the lead researcher is right here, so he will be telling us how they were able to get into that survey and how they were able to identify the best performing governors, and of course on the other list the worst performing governors as well. On the second hour, of course, it's back to school and each and every one is on his toes to ensure that our kids are back in school, but there are a lot of challenges, and our reporter Kamche Menza was in the cities of Nairobi, a beehive of activities if you ask me, in all the bus termini, but of course some challenges when it comes to vehicles, and of course the parents are talking about money, although that will be in our second discussion. So to kick us off is the matter that of course the ISS did yesterday, that the governors best performing and of course the worst performing, and I'm joined by the lead consultant Ben Mulwa, who actually was breaking down the figures yesterday on how they arrived at those governors. And also on Zoom I'm joined by Wilson Ngoge Diego, who is actually a political analyst and also has served as a CEC in one of the county governments. He will be telling us all about it. And also, we also have the social transformation expert, Thomas Ojanga, who is also joining us on Zoom. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
First things first.
Yes.
How did you arrive at these figures? You said you traversed all the 47 counties, 290 constituencies, but the number 1,500, 1,000
about 1,000, between 1,060, 1,667 per county. Foremost, thank you really for having me here this morning. And
you're welcome.
It's one of the most interesting surveys that I have ever participated in. Our consultancy company was established back in the year 2011. And we've done a lot of public sector related governance researches for individuals, for even state departments, for corporate clients. And we have the political division is just one of the main units. We do a lot of market researches, we do a lot of customer satisfaction surveys, and diverse researches based on the needs of our clientele. So in this particular case, in 2019 actually, we did a similar survey for all the 47 governors. Unfortunately, our target was to do annually. Unfortunately, last year we were not able to do the same because of the COVID-19 challenges. So this year, last month, we sent out our teams from across the 47 counties, and it was very elaborate. I can guarantee you even the amount of data we have.
For avoidance of doubt,
yes,
there is no politicians who have sponsored either a single or as a
zero. The one thing I have insisted on research is as a country there has been complaints a lot in regards to sponsored opinion polls or researches where they are designed to achieve a particular objective. And the one thing that I can be very happy to state is all the 47 governors got to know about a research that was conducted in their respective counties yesterday morning.
Okay.
All the 47. So they were equally surprised. And our target is to reintroduce credibility in research. Because if, for example, I reach out to one or the other governor, I can guarantee you all the 47 would want to be number one. All the 47 would want to be number one. Then that would introduce a tragedy in research, because research is supposed to present information as it is. Information can only be useful when it is as it is, not as we want it to be. And that is what we achieve with this research. And believe me, if there had been a problem with the findings of this survey, by this hour, I am sure I would have received calls from more than all the governors.
Yes.
I have received none.
Of course,
none of them is complaining. None of them is complaining.
We're going to get to the Nairobi one, which actually your survey says that, the acting Nairobi County Governor ranks really, really low.
Yeah, and I think...
but we'll touch on that. Let me rope in the gentleman.
Yes.
Thomas Ojanga, kindly, and Diego, what do you make, Tom, what do you make of the survey?
Well, the history of opinion polling in this country has been very sad, because you have a lot
Absolutely.
of relations in there. Mr. Njeru has been praising their polling as scientific, which I don't think it is. It was a collection of perceptions on the street, and with that you cannot rate your governors, and you cannot get governors' approval. Let me say what I mean. The most unscientific question that they did, I think it's question number 7, which is rate your governor in terms of development. Now, county developments are actually a collection of projects and programs. For you to rate that, you need to be qualified in project management, project assessment, project rating. You must know the budget, delivery timelines, milestones, and all that. Now, if you go and get people, pedestrians in the street, to rate that, basically you're asking them for unqualified opinions. You understand?
Yes.
And those are rumors. So now you cannot bring before the nation a collection of rumors as scientific facts, right? Just let's get on this. I mean, county development are a collection of county programs and projects. To quantify and assess that, you must be knowledgeable in that area. So when you say you pick up a sample of people from the market, and you ask them to develop that, they may not even be knowing what the county government is doing. They may not even be knowing what the government is doing. Now you get judgment from people who do not know what the governor is doing, who the governor is, what the governor is doing, and then you present that before the nation as fact. I don't think that's scientific. So, Mato, here I disagree with you. I think the one thing that the opinion poll has brought out is that devolution is positive for this country, and we need to encourage and entrench devolution. But the judgment and opinions on governors and their performance, I don't think that's scientific. I think this is not. We need to start treating the citizens more respectfully. We should treat them with a lot of mathematical nonsense and statistical nonsenses. So I think we need to start treating with more probable and factual information.
All right. Let's. Wilson Nungoge, you also have been a minister in one of the county governments, that is Tharaka County. And what can you make of opinion polls like the one Ben did? And of course, the synergy between the county government and the county assembly, in your opinion?
Thank you, Ben. And one, I want to say that I was a chief officer. Chief officer is equivalent to a PS at the county level. And in regards to our today's discussion, I think every research has some margin of error, and the research that I show Kina Ben has done, I think comparatively it's a fair research, but every research that should be accepted by public, there are three things that it should give out. One, any research and the research companies should from this time forward tell us where they are getting financing from. Because whatever finances may have, they are maybe they couldn't be having their way to see whom they want to support and all that. And again, as much as Ben and the researchers are not saying they got some key.
Okay, perhaps as we try to get Diego back on the line, Ben, you can respond to that. You did say that you haven't been funded by any politicians, but you were not clear on how you get the finances to move in the 47 counties into 290 constituencies.
One of the most tragic things on this planet is to bring the level of ignorance he's bringing on national TV.
Why is that?
I am a trained researcher. I don't know his background. When he says mathematical nonsense, I am trained in mathematics and statistics. I don't know his background. Number three, he cannot just come to national TV to discredit a research that he does not even have the report. He has not even come to us to understand. Just a moment. He has not even come to us. Yeah, he has not even come to us to understand the parameters. When you talk about development assessment, every Kenyan on this planet, can he keep quiet?
Hey Tom,
can he keep quiet?
Kindly,
I gave him time to talk.
Let me just finish, and then
I gave him time to talk. So it is extremely unfortunate for that kind of ignorance to be brought to the national TV, because Schedule 4 of the Constitution of Kenya provides very clearly. Can we have a discussion?
Kindly, Tom.
If he can't keep quiet, then we finish this discussion. Schedule 4 of the Constitution outlines extremely clearly the functions of county governments, from agriculture, water, trade and markets, sanitation. There are 10 functions essentially allocated to county governments. Now, I can guarantee you, if you go to Uriri, or you go to Loyangalani, or you go to Boni Forest, the average boda rider there, or the mamamboga, knows whether there is a road that has been done there or not. They know whether there is a market that has been done or not. They know that there is a health center that has been done or not. So on that premise, from the 10 functions which were where we based our questionnaires, every citizen today, even at the presidential level, today you can rate Uhuru Kenyatta on development based on what you have seen done from either infrastructure, mining, agriculture, education, and all those things. So for Janga to come here and start speaking like that, I find that a bit unprofessional, because he should bother. Like that second question that the chief officer asked, Wana Gigi, this research we did in partnership with a company called City Hub Limited. And I told you, this has been our core business. And funding such a research has never been a problem, because we have done very many. And one of the key reasons we did not want to involve anybody, especially at the county level, is to bring out the objectivity that you can see in the outcomes. As I told you, if there was really significant discrepancies in terms of what is actually on the ground versus what we presented, by this hour, you started running this story yesterday, you would have received a lot of complaints in regard to either the methodology or the sample size, the sampling technology, or even the outcomes.
Of course, we're going to get to the sampling size.
Just a moment.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
1,000.
Yes, per county, actually. But one of the key things that I was very excited about this particular research is we treated each of the counties as an independent universe. Like if we go to the analysis of Central Kenya, there is no point where we are comparing, say, Murang'a County with Kiambu County or Nyeri County. We wanted to get that feedback from the people, and our objective, our broader objective to do that was the understanding that devolution is really like the primary, the biggest achievement in the 2010 Constitution. We have governors who are completing 10 years in office, and devolution was supposed to bring maendeleo now to the people. So every individual, they can run back very quickly and look at where they were in, say, 2012 before the first governor was elected, and where we are today. But most importantly, also to respond to what Ojanga was saying, is at the end of the day, you know, depends on the purpose. You know, research is diverse. If we were undertaking, say, a feasibility study to build a nuclear plant in Nairobi, there are very technical details that must be captured in that kind of research. He cannot dismiss ordinary Kenyans by saying they do not understand development just because they are not probably educated to his level. Mama Mboga in the village understands development, because when they see they had to travel, say, 10 kilometers. For example, I can give you a scenario. Like here in Murang'a County, you find there is a very well level 5 equipped hospital that was recently launched. I think it was last year, just at the advent of COVID-19, which did not exist. So if the people of Murang'a no longer required to travel to Kenyatta, and they have a 35-bed ICU hospital in Murang'a. To them, that is development. Ojanga cannot dismiss 50 million Kenyans that they do not understand what development means.
So, I wouldn't want us to be the give and
but
take
it is important we talk about that, because for some of us, that's why I said we did not want to have any sponsorship from any politician, because to us, our credibility is extremely important. I want you to be able to challenge my outcomes, and I can respond with facts, not with, as he's saying, with rumors, because we cannot come here to the national TV to discuss rumors.
Let me rope in Diego. There's something that before we experienced some technical hitches. There's something that, Diego, you are raising, and having served in the county governments, and you see the role that actually these opinion polls do in shaping politics of the day. Diego.
Yeah, and before I went off air, I'm sorry for that. I was saying that we need actually the research organizations and to just tell us who is funding them. And I can assure you, Ben, it is true that the opinion polls, in one way or the other, they influence the politics of the day. And most of the times, that's why you see even the candidates themselves, they try to position themselves in a way that the opinion polls will favor them. But the research organizations must have credentials. We must know who are these people doing the research, what is the scope of the research. Because again, if you tell people you are coming to do research in a certain county or even constituency, I am able as a politician to influence a few individuals in the market or in the towns whom I think will be respondents. And some of the people that do questionnaire, they can actually be compromised because they are people like us. The senior manager may not know this, but when they come to the ground, get into our offices, go to politicians' offices, they have a cup of tea, they take a chicken, then they ask a few questions from a few selected individuals who, of course, the outcome will be skewed. The outcome, it's known before even the results comes out. But why I see it, I'm not discrediting the results. I think when I went through that, the entire research outcome, I think I felt they are fairly good. But again, we are just putting it as a warning because people start well, then as they move on, you will find a lot of compromise here and there, and because of a few integrity issues, some people have money, others all that. But the scope, then we want to know what was the sample size of the people that were done the interviewing, and we also would want to know the sectors. The sectors. If you have asked 10 people from Bonda sector, have you talked to the teachers? Have you talked to lawyers? Have you talked to Mamamboga? Have you also talked to any person that is necessary within that county? So the sectors are very important. As much as we are talking about the sample size, you can have 1,000 respondents, all of them are Bonda. You can have 1,000 respondents, all of them are account employees. So these are some of the things that I'm going to give credit to the organization that I'm going to do research going forward, that somebody can walk into your office, ask you for the files, the research files, you can give names of the respondents, you can actually give even their contacts, you can tell which areas they send. This is an area of development in our region, and then that is something that will grow our country. But the politics are highly shaped by the opinion polls, and that's why all the organizations that are doing this must be very professional.
Okay, and the good thing is that we have him here, so he will tell us who did they zero in when they were. The last poll did by a different organization did still rank Makueni governor as the best performing governor. Of course, you've trashed this report. Kindly comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Tom.
I think what Diego has said is quite true, and it's unfortunate that we're getting into this sort of argument on TV. I've just been checking that the Institute of Security Studies, where my panelist colleague here comes from, is actually preoccupied with studies on its own City Hub company in Nairobi, which does polling. So now, number one question is, who had the interest for what results, as Diego said? You understand? These two organizations are not charitable organizations. They're not the Mother Teresa's of Kenya, right? That's one thing. Second thing is, when you look at what I said, the questions begin with rate from a scale of 1 to 10, you know, all the scale of 1 to 10. So the questions already presume that everybody that has been selected has got some basic understanding of grading questions and all that, which is not true. We come to a country with low levels of education. The fact is, what they are brought is perception. I'll give an example. Today, if you went in some parts of this country, ask yourself the performance of the president in terms of development, they'll tell you, no, he's not done any development. And the history, facts tell us today that President Uhuru Kenyatta has done more for infrastructure development than any other president before. But simply because he's not put some money into people's possession, people don't see that development. So there is
fortunately go hitch there. I'm quite sure is going to be checked. Ojanga, can you kindly check your internet connectivity? But something that the two gentlemen have brought about, they're talking about exactly what do you ask. For example.
Yes. As I indicated, as I indicated, one, most of what you said, Jagi.
No, Ngugi.
Yes, most of what Ngugi has outlined is the basics of anybody who has been trained in research. You cannot just, because your sample size must be representative, and that's why even at the entry point, you know, it's only that for purposes of public consumption we cannot we cannot provide the entire structure of the components of each individual that was polled, but at the introduction point we gave a population structure. The respondents, we structured those who are between age 18 to 25 were maybe 27%, age 35 to 45 this percentage, up to above 65, which were about 5%. That is number one. Number two, there was the component that we polled on religion. That gives you a lot in terms of even some economic activities that individuals may participate in, and their aspirations in terms of what they expect from government, for example. That's why there was the component of Protestants, there was the component of Muslims, Catholics, and those who could not disclose, or those who do not profess any faith. Then there was also the component of gender, which we showed clearly from the respondents we picked. The average was 52% women, 48% men. Then we also went further to also at the initial stages establish those who can confirm to be registered voters. Of course, there are areas you cannot, because today as ISS we have no capacity. If you tell me, Ben, that you are a registered voter, I do not have that capacity to assess whether you are actually a registered voter.
Because you can only get those files
from IEBC. So the idea would be, and that's why, as he correctly said, there's usually that margin of error. There are probably people who are respondents in this survey who are not registered voters, but because they may feel embarrassed that they are not registered, they will tell you, yes, we are registered. Because from the data even we are receiving now from IEBC, you can see, and that's why if Ojanga was to analyze the population structure of that survey, if it was to be representative of the national population structure, probably the respondents from age bracket 18 to 25 should have been higher than the age bracket 26 to 35, because even in the national population that age bracket is higher. What I'm trying to drive at is, and there's also a very important component that Ngugi mentioned about professionalism and integrity, because one of the major tragedies, as outlined from the outset, is a survey like this one, because for us objectively is we have a very elaborate civic education program that we would wish to be involved in, and this understanding, or with this kind of a report, it enables us to relay information to the public where even citizens can interrogate leadership based on credible data. Because until yesterday I saw this particular conversation was very big on Twitter the whole of last night, and I could see people from, say, Migori talking about comparing their performance, say, with somebody in Makueni. You could see Kajiado comparing themselves with Northeastern. You could see Lamu. You know, because ultimately, and that's why you can notice that even at the governor's level, nobody would want to either endorse, condemn or endorse, because we did not want to involve them, and that's how we have been doing our researches. Because ultimately, as professionals, just the same way with the legal profession, Ojanga talks about the security industry. You know, these are complex fields and they are technical, but ultimately, this information ultimately must be presented to the public in a manner that can be consumed and understood by all and interpreted. You know, we can have a very detailed research on anything, but if it cannot be interpreted by the people of Mandera, if it cannot be interpreted by the people of Kisii, then it is of no no use. Some of us can read very good English. We can sit here, read good English, understand numbers, as he's saying mathematics, but ultimately, and that is one of the key things. And that's why there are, I was hoping, because now you see we are spending quite a bit of academic time here. I was hoping we can be able also to analyze, if you give me like a minute or two. Yes.
Now, apologies for that, but looking at a country like Kenya, you're doing a sample size of around 1,000. Let's even give it 2,000 per county.
Yes.
And then we do the 47 counties.
Yes.
That's less than 100,000 for a population of 50 million Kenyans.
Again, at the introduction level of our report, if you had a chance to read the report.
Yes, I actually perused it yesterday.
Yes, we explained the component of simple random sampling. And for example, like if we are seated here, assuming there are 1,000 employees here at KBC, and I want to understand just one question. Are you happy, say, with the management of KBC? If I sample, say, 10 people, there's a probability maybe I'm going to get 4 and 6, or 5 and 5, or 3 and 7, that kind of a reflection. My margin of error will be higher when the sample size is very small. When I expand that, say, to 20 people, my margin of error will narrow down because the results may not drastically change. If it was a 7 yes, it may not suddenly become a 13 no. You understand? If the sample size increases to, say, 50, the results may still be almost very similar, but now my margin of error will be very narrow. That's why if I were to use the logic you're asking, in a country like the United States, which has a population of 400 million shillings, all opinion polls are usually a sample size of between 1,000 and 3,000 maximum, and it normally presents an overall outcome that is a reflection of the general population. You reach a point which we call a point of diminishing returns, whereby regardless of the number of people you're going to poll,
the outcome I actually understand that. I wanted you to
but it is important also for the people to understand. But believe you me, just a moment, believe you me, when you talk about 1,000 people per county, that's why I said this is one of the most comprehensive researches that has ever been done, because and that's why we isolated each county as a distinct universe, because all the other polls that you have been reading are normally, you are told that we did maybe 1,800 or 3,000 respondents from across Kenya. So you are asking somebody in Turkana about Nairobi, you're asking somebody in Kajiado about Trans Nzoia. That research cannot be really reflective of the outcomes we wanted, especially on issues development. You cannot ask somebody who is in Mandera to rate the Nairobi governor, for example, and vice versa. So that's why our sample size, in fact, it was in excess of 47,000 respondents, but from each respective county. And that's why these results, even I would want you to randomly maybe have a conversation with either the governors or somebody who has been in counties like Bwanangugi, and they can tell you if it was to call 15 or 30 people in Tharaka Nithi right now, to a large extent they would agree with what is presented in that report.
Okay.
Yes.
And perhaps to go back to Diego, and we know very well that they do shape the opinion polls. In a way, they do shape the politics of the day, and we do know very well that in Kenya, despite the controversy, you find people are still elected. And good publicity is good publicity, bad publicity is still good publicity in Kenyan politics. And we've seen candidates come out and say, no, these pollsters are fake. Of course, an opinion held by some people, and others have. And especially when they are leaning towards you, they are actually
very good
for those candidates. Does this help in the cohesion of a country, and especially when we have campaigns? Let's bring in Diego first, so that you may be able to respond to both. Diego. Yes.
Then, as I understand earlier, the opinion polls, they shape the politics of the day. They might not actually. Mostly they do.
We seem to be having some challenges in your audio, but Ojanga, you can chip in. We know very well that they do shape the politics of the day, but as in a country like Kenya, does it actually help in terms of cohesion of the country? Of course, we also have a challenge with storm. Does it help in the cohesion of the country, and especially when you have these campaigns? Hata mliona walisema,
you know, of course,
and especially in a country like Kenya where we have
that idea of people using either to their advantage or to their disadvantage of who they perceive to be their enemies is standard worldwide. And there is nothing as researchers we can do about that, because at the end of the day, when you look at the parameters that we are polling, we would have a problem if all the governors scored the same score. And if all the governors have the same approval ratings. But there's a very interesting distinction that we brought out in this survey that has not been done actually since the advent of devolution. And this was not only rating governors against development, but also on popularity, because it brings now the public perception question you're asking, where we have governors who have developed exceptionally well on development, but their popularity rating is very bad. In fact, most of the times they are likely to lose their seat. Yet we have governors who have achieved essentially nothing on development, but their public approval rating is so high, they are likely to retain their seats. And I can highlight a couple of examples. When you look at the results, say, for Lamu County, you find that the governor's development scorecard, according to the residents of Lamu, not according to Ben Mulo,
it's quite low.
It's very low, actually.
But his popularity,
is very high. So there is this issue of the perception. Maybe there is another reason why they really would like the governor, and why, if elections were held tomorrow, they would want to elect him again. And those are issues that emerge in this particular result, report, that we would want to interrogate further. Then I'll give you also another example, which to me was a very interesting surprise. We have a governor in Kiambu County, James Nyoro. James Nyoro came in office just barely 1.5 years ago. James Nyoro, according to the outcomes we received from the people of Kiambu, his development scorecard is about 64%. He is actually the best performing first-term governor now in central Kenya. Because the best performing in central Kenya is Mwangi Wairia, who has been there for 2 terms. But when you analyze further now, if we were to interrogate the issues that Ojanga would want to see, Governor Nyoro has only been in office for 1.5 years. 2, this is an individual who ran for office in 2013 and the people rejected him. In 2017, he had to come in under somebody as a deputy governor. And of course, now that time you could not assess his capacity because he was not the governor. But within 1.5 years, he has transformed. But now when you look at his political scorecard, it is very low. Actually, I think about 49% against a development scorecard of 69%. It means perhaps this is somebody who has chosen to invest more on what actually sent him to office, to utilize the resources of Kiambu County for the development of Kiambu County at the expense of his politics. You don't see him on TV or radio all the time shouting.
So in short,
in essence,
you could be popular.
Yes, you could be very popular, but development you are zero.
And
but you have
vice versa
as well. So those are issues I would also want to invite the media to begin to interrogate. Because like for example, there are second-term governors, like I picked on, say, somebody like Governor Joho in Mombasa. You find his development scorecard is very poor.
But his
popular rating is
fine.
very...
Let's bring in Diego on the same, on terms of, because your 2 key pillars were development conscious and the popularity.
Approval rating,
And Diego, I had asked a question earlier on the national cohesion, because we will find that, of course, a lot of people will say, no, these people are out, they have been paid. Does it add to the cohesion of the country, and especially now that we have campaigns? Diego?
Yes, Ben, it does. And one, I want to also ask my friend, what kind of development were they looking at? Because one of the things, Ben, that our research specialists should be looking at is the development they are talking about adds value to the people. Because you will find in to manage things there are some developments that are not adding value to the people. I guess you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, so the developments that they are looking at, to the counties. Hello? Yes, so coming back, the issue of opinion polls actually shaping the politics. It is true, and even people will select their running mates, will select all these other candidates. The opinion polls will do a lot of info giving information to every one of us on whom we are going to vote, because they are going to go to other levels of integrity, other levels of consciousness, and I think opinion polls at the end of the day, then they are going to shape the politics. But as I understand earlier, these people must be very genuine, very honest. They should actually get the funding possibly from outside our nation because of the interest. People have different interests, and they can fund because of the outcome of the polls.
Okay.
Yes,
you can respond to that, and still, because of the interest of Makueni governor is always on the news when it comes to these opinion polls, and we know there are a myriad of challenges facing the people of Makueni. Perhaps there's something that he's doing right. Kindly respond to that.
Very quickly, first I want to respond to Bwana Ngugi, and it is very important he's raising that question about the parameters we're using to measure development. I had explained, but I can repeat very quickly. Bwana Ngugi, you realize Schedule 4 of the Constitution of Kenya outlines the functions of county governments. The components of agriculture, water, trade and markets, and health, and we know the devolved functions. And having worked in a county government, he understands. So I cannot go there and start assessing, say, Governor Mudhomi from Tharaka Nithi on national security, for example. We narrow down to specifically the functions that have been allocated to the county governments, and that's what broadened the questions we were asking. Because you may find, for example, if I go to Tharaka Nithi, maybe the people of Tharaka Nithi may feel he has done very well, say, on the water agenda. He has done poorly on agriculture. He has done best on health. He has done something else on trade and markets and all that. So there's out of each score, if it is 7 on this and a 2 on this one and a 9 on there, what we presented as the development score for each of the governors was the average of all of all the functions. So I think that is well responded to, Bwana.
Let's go to Makueni.
Yes. Now, this is another dynamic that was brought out very clearly by this survey, and there are two things about an individual like Professor Kibwana. We also have in that category Governor Mwangi wa Iria. We have Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, particularly those three, because I've seen most of the reports have been oscillating around that framework. And one of the key things is like in Makueni, the universal healthcare program that Governor Kibwana launched about 5 or 6 years ago has been a great success, and this is one of the issues that a lot of the respondents brought out very strongly. You find that on average the family expenditure at the family level on healthcare has drastically reduced because of that particular program. I don't think I want to delve into the details. Then there was the component of public participation. Professor Kibwana has even been recognized internationally. He's the only governor who can pride himself in entirely involving the citizens in everything he does at the county.
Public participation.
Public participation. So the people of Makueni feel they are part of the government, and that came out very strongly. When you go to an area like Murang'a, Governor Mwangi wa Iria, who is the best performing governor in central Kenya, either as a second term or overall, there were 2 or 3 pertinent issues that came out. One was the issue of the guaranteed milk price stabilization. Yes. Currently it is at 40, and I understand it started when it was 15 shillings. This has been massive for the farmers, because the majority of the people of Murang'a are farmers, especially dairy farmers, and there's coffee and tea and the others. So you find that is something that is very dear to these people. They have been cushioned from the milk price fluctuations that other farmers in the rest of the country experience. At one point you're selling your liter of milk at 15, next is 18 shillings, 28, 34. You know, like right now is guaranteed at 40 shillings. It doesn't matter what the price is for the other areas. There is also something I understand he started off back, and this is very important if I take you through to understand the logic behind the results we saw. I understand he started a program to enhance avocado growing in that region.
Okay.
And according to the data that is currently available from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, largely from the production of avocado from Murang'a and a few other areas that picked up around that time. Last year, Kenya overtook South Africa as the biggest exporter of avocado in Africa. According to the household surveys that have been undertaken, that translated to an income in the last year of about 9 billion shillings to Murang'a County alone. Now, this brings in a dimension of time, because when I looked at the statistics, you find that all the top 5 best performing governors on especially development are second-term governors. This brings in the component of time. Perhaps if, and especially if, you remember Professor Kibwana was having a lot of problems in his first term, for example.
Yes, with the county assembly.
Yeah, perhaps if Governor Kibwana was sent home in 2017, probably these outcomes would not be there. But he has had the advantage of time. Same thing with Governor Wairia, same thing with Governor Oparanya, same thing with Governor Nanok in Turkana, and many others. So those are areas that we wish to continue researching on, and any other outcomes we shall be presenting to the public.
Of course, we will touch on the graft and what they have not done, because at the end of the day, they have done this and they haven't done that. So, Diego, can you kindly chip in politics? How does politics, and especially at the county assembly...
The guy has not responded to my constitution be incorporated in next research, that as much as all those functions they are doing research on, especially in regards to Schedule 4, the devolved functions, some areas there are things that people would want, and that's why the public participation is very important. If you put up a factory, a fruits or a juice factory in Mandera, it couldn't be devolved, yes, but is that factory adding value to the people of Mandera? The research that is being done on development should actually capture the type of development, whether it is adding value or it's just a money minting project. That's why I'm saying some projects, yes, you can go somewhere and find a tower of a building, called an hospital, but it's in understand where there are no people around there. So they should incorporate so that our governors can do projects that are beneficial to people. The so-called public participation, most of the counties are not doing it. They're actually not doing it. Yeah. They send MCAs in a few areas to go and direct individuals, and they don't actually, even the response they get from the people, they don't follow that one. They just do what they think in their mind. It is right for them, it is right for their people, and mostly they follow what they call manifesto. So you have a manifesto that you give to people, whether it is adding value or not, you just push your agenda without necessarily benefiting the electorate. And that's where the comes, that they should go at these projects, whether they are really helping our people. If it's around, is it really around that's requiring that amount of money? Could there be a problem of water that was more necessary than around in that region? Something like that.
And, yes, and before you do that, we need to go to the Continental House. You still respond on that, and still on the graft. There's massive graft in counties, and Diego is also coming with the
dimension
you've
of
talked about.
Okay. Yes.
On the counties, assemblies, and county governments working in synergy. We do remember Makueni had issues in the first term of governor, so we also touch on that, on the same. And also Nairobi. We are in Nairobi, but we are not ranking very well. But for now, let's now cross over to the Continental House here in Nairobi, where the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning is meeting with the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining. Of course, you do know the fuel issue in the country. But before, as we prepare that feed, maybe you can touch on that.
Quickly respond to Bwanangugi, and I sincerely appreciate his concern, especially having worked in a county government. But respectfully, I want him to allow me to state that we are not auditors. All that information is requesting or looking for is available and has been done elaborately by the Office of the Auditor General. Our speciality and our technicality is not audit. It will be be unprofessional for us as a research company to start asking, so this project that your governor put here, do you think you got value? For us, that is not our interest. Our interest was primarily, are you satisfied with what your governor has been doing or not, based on water, agriculture, health, all that. Because now if we go that direction of determining whether there is value for money for this particular road, like I'll give you an example. If we were to poll here in Nairobi the value of, say, the ongoing Nairobi Expressway under construction, it would not be our interest. There is a national watchdog, which is Parliament and the Senate and many other organs, including the Office of the Auditor General, to establish whether we got money for value for money. Our interest as a research company would be, do you as Ben, do you get value from using that road? Do you think it is going to make a difference in the flow of traffic in Nairobi or not? If we are to investigate value for money, now that's a technical area where they have also professionals competent for that, and that could be maybe the business of the Auditor General, or maybe the financiers of the project, if it is funded by the Kenyan taxpayer, or if it is funded by the World Bank or any other segment.
Before we go to the Continental, you can also touch on why Nairobi ranks so lowly.
Now,
and of course, we have the NMS, but did it have to eat into the acting governor?
No. You know, there's also something else that's why I said it is very important for people to critically interrogate results, and that interrogation is the questions now you are asking me, having been the pollster in this. Number one, you're going to agree that Nairobi do not have a substantive governor. That gives the occupant of that office a disadvantage as it starts out. Number two, she's a deputy governor who is acting as the governor. So our assumption is that there are many things that she has not been able to do, probably because of that limitation of the absence of a substantive governor. We cannot compare Anne in Nairobi with James Nyoro in Kiambu, who is a substantive governor, but he was a deputy governor. There is a distinction. That is one. Then number two, we also established that in Nairobi there is that unique situation where there are functions that were transferred to the national government, and our research was purely on county governments. Now, an outfit like the NMS does not fall anywhere within the structure of county governments. That is number one. Number two, we cannot also start polling General Badi against Governor Wairia or Paranya or Professor Nyang'o.
Actually,
because he's not what I'm saying is,
my point is, did it have NMS?
I believe it has. No, I believe it has, because most of the respondents in Nairobi, you know, this poll was in the last was undertaken last month. So the feedback that people are providing are based on maybe what they have experienced in the last 1 year. And one of the key things that came out very strongly is since she assumed office, they have not seen her initiating or undertaking development projects. That is a fact. Then secondly, as I've explained, there are those other challenges that may be because of that limitation as a deputy governor. Then third, there are also many functions that were transferred to the national government. So for example, if we are polling on issues of health, now it became difficult to rank the Nairobi acting governor, because that is already a transferred function. So that is, although there are also other functions that have been retained at the county government, that's what brought in that development score. But there's another interesting dimension that you have not analyzed on the popularity. Nairobi is the largest county by population. By 2017, we had about 2.25 million registered voters. You know, many people may look at that score of, I think approval rating was about 13%. But if you take 13% of the population of Nairobi, that is almost 400,000 votes. Even Professor Kibwana cannot garner 400,000 votes in Makueni. Or Paranya, who came number one in popularity, cannot garner 400,000 votes perhaps in Kakamega.
But of course,
so, you know, those are statistical inferences that many times the numbers may not automatically look like the reality. I saw counties where the entire population was about 100,000. So for somebody who has 13% in Nairobi and can garner 400,000 votes, you cannot compare that with somebody who is in Mandera or Wajir or another place where they win an election with 40,000 votes. So those are intrigues around the research that are very important you have brought us, so that we can be able to explain to the public.
It's a good thing, actually, people to understand the two parameters, basic parameters that you are using. Then you must have heard while doing the polls that people talking about they are not happy how the county government and the county assembly are working on the wrangles. Let's go to Nyandarua. We have issues. Let's go. Embu actually was the first in the first devolution government. Then we went to Makueni, which is now ranking highly.
Then we went to Kericho.
Diego, you've worked in the county government, so the synergy between the county government and the county assembly, does it play a key role in ensuring that such statistics are seen? Apologies, we seem to be having some issues with his audio. Perhaps Ben, you can chip in.
Yes, it plays a huge role, and even in the research outcome that we currently have.
Did you hear people talking about? We are not happy about.
Yes, the relationship between maybe the executive and the executive and the county assemblies, and it plays, and I am convinced it plays a huge role, because I gave you first the example of Professor Kibwana. You remember the time the MCAs wanted to remove him from office, and there was turmoil in Makueni for quite some time. And I want to believe if we had done a similar survey, say in 2015 or 2016, in my assessment, probably there wasn't much Kibwana was able to do then for the people of Makueni. I can assure you probably would have been among the worst performing governors.
Back then?
Back then.
Yes.
The other result that I saw is in Wajir, where there is a governor who was removed from office, and there's been a tussle with his deputy. Both of them now are governors, so there's been that confusion. If you look at the development scorecard of Mohamud, it came to about 33%. I would want to imagine, we didn't really delve into the details. We were just focusing on the questions that we wanted to respond to. But I would want to imagine that has an impact, or the wrangling that has been in Wajir has an impact on the development scorecard of the governor. So that ability for county governments to work together with especially the executive with the assembly is extremely critical. One, county assemblies are in charge of budgeting, or ultimately you cannot move a single shilling from a county government coffer without the approval of the county assembly. So when there is tussles, and you saw that recently I think in Kitui, where they paralyzed operations last year, the county assembly paralyzed operations last year for almost 6 months because there was that disagreement with the executive. Ultimately, that either will delay the implementation of programs or the manifesto of the governor extensively. That again will make it impossible to complete projects on time. You know, the government works with financial years, cycles, which starts on July 1, ends on June 30. So if you spend half a year squabbling over a budget, and you remember last year also there was a similar scenario in Nairobi, where since the budget cycle commencement time of July 1, there was no budget for Nairobi until December. So ultimately that would have an impact, because of that tussle between the executive and the assembly. That ultimately will have an impact on the performance of the governor. So going forward, and that's why I believe with this kind of researches, and I want to acknowledge, like yesterday, when during the launch we had a representative from the Council of Governors, and we also had a representative from an organization called the County Governance Watch. And the representative from the County Governance Watch, who has been in the monitoring, most of the details that Ngugi is asking, they have been doing a lot of those kinds of researches in value for money and all that. He stated that the availability of the kind of data that we provided yesterday presented a very unique opportunity for them in understanding better the dynamics between development and the politics. Because previously, you know, we were just looking at would you re-elect this governor or not, or do you think he's performing? But when you distinguish these two, then it makes it even easier for the citizens to decide, do we want a politician who just makes noise all over here but our money is not being utilized, or do we want somebody who is genuinely interested in our development and is not very busy politicking? So those are some of the dynamics that came out very strongly through this process. But I believe ultimately, if you look at even the stability we have had, say in Kakamega, especially between the executive and the county assembly.
Yes.
You look at now the stability that Kibwana has enjoyed, say, since the second term. You look at the stability probably Mwangi Wairi has enjoyed. You can see there's Dr. Alfred Muto. You remember even the first time he was having problems.
Yes.
But now there's been quite some bit of stability. For the last 4 years, I've not had an impeachment motion, say, in Machakos. So I want to consider, that's why I said second term governors overall performed better both on development and approval rating.
Okay.
So that means that stability is very important for the performance of a governor or a county government.
I don't know whether Maxwell, my director, we have Diego on the line. He can touch on that, on the executive and the assembly working hand in hand to ensure that such results for the counties that have emerged the best actually actualized. But before we can we can get to that on Diego, because he has actually been on the ground. So I'm quite sure there are people who did tell you, yes, this is my governor, he has done ABC, but I would want him, or I would want ABCD done, or he hasn't done it.
Definitely.
What are some of the things that people talked about they would want to see?
Actually, I don't even think we need to go back to or to focus on what the people are saying. The results speak it all. Believe you me, a national average scorecard of 50.9% of development for second term governors is very low. If you are sitting an examination and you are scoring 50%, that is extremely low.
What you're saying is that if those governors that were going for a third term, a lot of them would have been
no, that is on the development score.
On the development score.
Yeah, because approval rating, again, you find a number of them would still be re-elected.
And there's something that I also wanted to bring in, because the approval rating is playing a key role.
Yes, it plays a very key role.
Why are not people looking at exactly what they should be looking at, not the person?
That's the intrigue, actually. That's why I said we have decided to research further. Like the two cases I gave you, where you find Governor Mvurya from Kwale. His approval rating is a second-term governor exiting, but his approval rating is 77%, I think the second in the country after Governor Oparanya. But his development rating is very low. I think it is 40-something%. So you'd want to understand what would be the issues that the people of Kwale would be looking out for. Do they want a popular guy who is good with them and who speaks very well in public rallies and that kind of things? Or do they want somebody who is going to push their development agenda? And on the flip side, I gave you the example of Governor Nyoro in Kiambu, whose approval rating is very low at, I think, 49%, but his development scorecard is very high, actually the highest in the first-term governors, all of them in Central Province, beating those who have been longer than him in the office, like Governor Waiguru, Governor Kememia, and all that. So this brings an interesting dimension where we need to interrogate further, because again, you see, Kenyans are not homogeneous. There are those who may decide to elect Ben Mulwa as maybe their MCA or MP or governor just because they like the way I dress. They are not interested. Maybe they like the way I speak on TV. There are those who are going to elect somebody else because of what they have done, the programs they have done on the ground. And that's why you've seen this idea of what we call political waves. We end up with a lot of the electorate regretting because there are individuals who are either nominated to be elected as MCAs or members of parliament or members of the Senate or even at the gubernatorial level who are carried by that wave. Unakumbuka unasikianga wakisema ni suti ile kutoka juu mpaka chini ni suti. So you 3 pieces ama siku hizi sijui ni 6 pieces. So you line up, you decide if you have a presidential candidate aligned to this political party, then the governor must come from the same, and the senator and the MP and the MCA. Then that brings in complications. That's why you may find those cases where there are those individuals who have performed very well, but they are very unpopular, and there are those who have performed very poorly development-wise, but they are very popular. Those are dynamics, and again, as I said, we are not an homogeneous society. So we would want to interrogate that further. I want to believe maybe in the next year we will come back with better or advanced results in understanding that idea, because it would also guide those who are looking to run for office.
Yes. Indeed. In case you just joined us, this is KBC Newscheck, and today we are looking at opinion polls and how they shape the politics of the day. And on set, I have Ben Mulwa, who is the lead consultant at ISS. the company that did the poll that ranked all the 47 governors in terms of their development and in terms of their popularity. We are now, of course, crossing over to the Continental House, where the Department or Committee on Finance and National Planning is meeting the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining to discuss, among others, the fuel crisis in the country in terms of pricing. Let's listen in first.
There is nowhere where the Kenyan authorities, agencies such as yourself or Kenya Pipeline is involved in that contract to ensure the protection of public funds. So these funds are allowed to be paid out, a contract to be entered into by a private enterprise, which is an oil trader in this country, and a supplier of a vessel, who are private individuals, to incur expenses on behalf of, which is paid for by Kenyans, and there is nobody to oversight. Whatever number of days, whatever the contract says, whatever we are going to pay, and at the end of the day, Kenyans pay this money, and we don't have any evidence here to show us exactly who pays this money, who carries away this money, how it is paid. We just have now to trust your word, and the minister is hiding from us.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Professor Mahmoud Sheikh, member for Wajir South, and a member of this committee. I was running from another meeting, and I'm on another agent's call again. Now, I do apologize. I want to follow up with Honorable Omolele here and add a bit of more strength onto the cases that he has raised on here. We want to see audited accounts for the last 10 years. That is going to give us a picture of who takes what, who puts in what. Do you have 10 years audited accounts of demurrages? The demurrage is about money. It is about collection of money. That's one. Second, the audited account is not only financial figures. It is about who takes responsibility for the delays that happens. Someone is paid to be on the job for them to be paid demurrages, to delay, to slow down, to sluggish standing at the workplace, so that they are paid money. So we want to know all that. So it's not audited account about the figures in shillings only, but also work performance audited. That is what we really need and want to tell Kenyans. And we don't want to see the CS running away from us. Chair, we have gotten an extension from the Speaker just because of this. We would have given a report that is implicating you guys so hard for running away from us. And we will take it forward. We will take it forward. We will let Kenyans know of the failures, because we have been reeling over these things for quite some time. So it's not something new that we are trying to start up with you guys. So we deliberated so much about this, but it seems we're going nowhere. We are on a rat race. Thank you.
Okay, I want to stop there. I want to go back to EPRA. I want them to answer those questions, because there are some fundamental issues that we need to resolve, so that as we move forward, we know which direction we are going towards. So can you answer some of those fundamental issues that the members have raised, so that we have a foundation from which we are operating? And also just tell us how long on average a vessel is expected to take at the port. Is there any vessel that arrives that does not pay, that does not accrue any demurrage charges? That is when we've attained 100% efficiency. So just answer those questions and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Chair and Honourable Members. I probably will start with the general sentiment, particularly raised by Honourable Omolele, as to what our role is as the regulator, and whether we actually provide oversight to ensure that Kenyans are not fleeced. First, I would want to start with the basis, and I mentioned this earlier on, which is the legal basis for the importation of petroleum products into the country. This is legal notice number 24 of 2012 that has codified the open tender system terms and conditions, including the contract. This is run by the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, where there is a projection done.
Just stick to the demurrage issue.
Yes, I'm getting there, Chair. The open tender system terms and conditions, legal notice number 24 of 2012, and the open tender terms and conditions, there is a provision there on demurrage. There are some numbers there on acceptable demurrage rates that are provided for in the open tender terms and conditions, which are anchored under this legal notice. This provides the basis. To the second question as to
what are the numbers?
The specific demurrage numbers in the OTS tender terms and conditions, as I said, it's dependent on the size of the vessel. You have your MRs, you have your LRs. I'll just ask Edward, the engineer Kinywa, to give us the numbers.
Thank you, Chair. The OTS is crafted based on international shipping practice, and they normally check the world scale rates of these ships in terms of freight, because demurrage is the opportunity cost of that ship not being able to sail out of the port and do some useful work. So they charge you the rate they are supposed to charge the ship to transport other goods elsewhere per day. So we have the three categories of ships. These are medium range ship, which is up to 44,999 metric tons. So the demurrage rate per day is $25,000 per day pro rata. Per day pro rata, meaning the more it stays, these are compounding rate on top of it. Then these are long range one. This is LR1. This is a ship between 45,000 metric tons to 79,999 metric tons. And basically the demurrage for that kind of ship is $31,000 per day pro rata. And then there's the final ship, which is basically what we import mostly in this country, is a long range 2. This long range 2 is between 80,000 metric tons and 159,999 metric tons. The demurrage rate here is $45,000 per day pro rata. Thank you.
Okay. Does that legal notice provide for the acceptable range of time? Number of days that the maximum number of days that you can actually pay, or is it just a free world? If you stay for 30 days, it's okay. If you stay for 20 days, it's okay.
Thank you, Chair. The legal notice and the OTS agreement don't stipulate the number of days. That can be based on best practice. Like, for example, I can give you a good example, is the Shimanzi Oil Terminal, which is a private jetty. There's a policy directive that was given by the PS that vessels should not spend more than 10 days. This is a smaller jetty, but because it goes to a private facility for control purposes, the PS had to issue a policy guidance that a vessel cannot stay in that jetty for more than 10 days. And if it stayed for more than 10 days, the demurrage rate was incurred by the importer. For KOT, the demurrage rates I've given you mostly apply for Kipemu Oil Terminal. There's no defined number of days because it depends on the availability of the jetty. But of course, we task KPA and KPC also to be able to have an oversight of the number of days these vessels are taking at the port and the reasons thereof. And of course, as my DG has earlier mentioned, the vessel scheduling committee is able also to probe why certain vessels took longer at the jetty, and if the reasons are not justifiable, then that demurrage is not compensated. As to your other question, whether there are vessels which come without demurrage, yes, there are vessels which come and they leave. But
the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, they are meeting with the Ministry officials, that is the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, in regards to the escalating charges of petrol and petroleum products. Of course, we are hoping for some good news from there, or some white smoke in terms of fuel prices in the next coming days. Of course, a factor that plays out in each and every sector. In case you just joined us, this is KBC Newscheck. My name is Ben Troy Njue, and I'm with Ben Mulwa here, who is the lead consultant of ISS, the company or the firm that did the performance of governance in terms of development and popularity, and came out with results that we are pointing out, because at the end of the day, these opinion polls do shape the politics of the day, be it positively or negatively. Yes, and of course on Zoom we have Ungoge Wilson Diego, who is a former chief officer in one of the county governments, actually Tharaka Nithi County. And before the break, and before we actually went to the Continental House, we were discussing on how the executive and the assembly work together, and does it show. And as you rightly put it, in the first government, we had Embu, we had the likes of Machakos, yes. We had likes of Makueni, and now Kericho yes. as well. Mm-hmm. Now we have new boys in the team. We have we have Nyandarua. Yes. Can you kindly try to put it into perspective, yes. the performance of Nyandarua? Because
actually, you know, when I looked through the complete analysis, mm-hmm. it is evident that Governor Kimemia it would be ranked as the poorest performer in terms of development mm-hmm. in the central region. Then you mentioned to me that there is that issue he's been having with the county assembly, mm-hmm. and I think there is a correlation, because I also gave you the example of Wajir, yes. where there has been the wrangling and the removal of the governor and all those kind of tussles.
Okay, let's first of all bring in Diego.
Okay,
Diego, kindly comment on that, the working relationship between executive and the assembly in terms of bringing good development measures in counties. Okay. Perhaps you can...
yes, so I was giving... These are very interesting outcomes, because in the matter of assessing how the governor has performed, especially on development, you know, approval is general. Maybe somebody may have their own reasons why they don't like their governor or why they like the governor. That's a totally different thing. But our greater interest is on this component of development, whereby you can see most of these counties where there has been a lot of instability on issues between the executive and the assembly, their rankings are very low on development achievement.
Okay, just a minute. Okay. Diego, if you can hear me, kindly touch on that, the working relationship between the executive and the assembly in terms of county development. Unfortunately, they say today ile day some technical hitches here and there. Apologies for that, but kindly touch on that.
No problem at all.
Touch on that.
Yes. So when you critically analyze the counties where there has been a lot of turmoil, especially between the county executive and the county assemblies, it is evident that their development performance has been poor. And that's why I gave the example of somebody like Professor Kibwana. In his first term, it was full-time turmoil. Probably if we had conducted a similar survey, say in the year 2016, or say even 2017, I don't think he would have the same scorecard that he had as of September last month. Excuse me. Now, but again, internally, there is the component of probably the leadership. You know, that's why I said from the outset we set out all these counties as individual universes and not comparing one to the other, because There are also other counties, like as I've given you the example of Kiambu. There was also a lot of tussling between the former governor and the assembly before his ultimate removal. But I have not seen or noticed a lot of that turmoil since Governor Nyoro came into office. Probably he has deployed a better working arrangement between the executive and the county assembly, and that is what could have propelled his performance, which is the best performing first-term governor in the central region. So my thinking is the utilization of these results or this report would go a long way in, one, enabling the citizens of this country to decide the kind of leadership they want. Because, you know, initially, your governor, like when you have a report like this, probably the people of Lamu do not know how the other governors are performing across the country. But when they look at a report like that, maybe they may want to rethink, is that the kind of a governor we want to retain? Or it's really up to them. Secondly, this rating brings out an interesting dimension that I have seen now many governors positioning themselves. Maybe they want to run for president. There are those who want to be deputy presidents and all that. This enables also Kenyans to assess, if you are poorly performing as a governor, then why do you want to become president, or why do you want to become deputy president? Because initially we have been relying on what they are telling us. But now this is a totally impartial and independent report that can help even general citizens make that decision.
Okay, Diego, let's rope in Diego in terms of that. I would want actually to hear, because we have seen wrangles between assemblies and the executive, as you say, is a clear reflection of what is on the ground, according to the report. And you did sample, and people did talk about they are not happy with what
they are not happy.
Happening.
They will tell you straight up.
Diego, can you touch on that as we wind up?
Thank you, Ben. Upa Monea, Madam Clear. Thank you.
You're on.
One, I want to say that my actually question wasn't on the issue of the cost or value for money. It was the value for people. The value for people. But since we walked out of that, I want to speak something on the performance based on the executive and the assembly, the county assembly. And Ben, I want to say that the majority of the people that are ranked well, you can bear me witness, they didn't have an issue with the assemblies. Majority of them, they worked together. That synergy was felt in the ground because MCAs was close to people. People would give their issues. The issues are presented in the assembly, and then assembly gives those same issues to the executive, which in returns, when they are doing their budget, they incorporate the issues at the ground. And finally, the assembly, because the issues and tips, you find that the issues were addressed in the budget, and then the assembly will approve the same budget because it's addressing the issue of the people. So I think the Senate, the work, the togetherness of executive and assembly helps the counties to perform better. That one is not questionable. However, that does not also should not be taken like the executive and assembly should be speaking with one voice, because again the assembly is supposed to check on the executive. So there shouldn't be imbalance where the assembly questions the usage and the matters of the usage of funds, and also the executive it's also supposed to do what is necessary to the people in their respective counties. So on the issue of approval rate is good because again, as I understand earlier, majority of the governors who are on their second term, some sorry for that.
All right. As he was saying that majority of governors who are on their second term, they are seeking perhaps a higher office or other offices. And the balance, actually that's the word, striking the balance between the executive and the as we wind up.
Yes. And I think when you analyze the results that were presented, there are a number of governors whose score on development and approval rating are almost at the same level. That means these are people who have been able to balance their politics with the development, and that results in harmony, whereby, as Ngugi is saying, they don't have to agree on everything, and they don't really have to speak with one voice. But the idea is, when it is clearly understood the role of the responsibility, the executive respects the role of the responsibility, and and vice versa, then there is less friction, there is less conflict, there is less confusion, and that means, as he's correctly putting it, and I think that's another issue that brings out the component I said about Professor Kibwana. When the issues come from the people, and then the assembly approves that through a budget and hands over that budget to the executive, and then the executive sticks to that budget, delivers on what the people wanted, and vice versa, that creates a conveyor belt of what would ultimately be a success story. But when there is that tussle, like the case I highlighted for you, say for Kitui County, where the assembly wanted this and then the executive wants the opposite, then it becomes a quagmire. In the process, it is actually the citizens who suffer because there is delayed development time, and this country is not going to stop to wait for one governor to sort out his issues with the MCAs. And ultimately the expectation is they must have clear deliverables by the end of their term. So that harmony, I think, would be very important, and that's why even as citizens, I believe we have that responsibility to critically also evaluate the kind of individuals we are electing into office. If the motivation of those who are seeking office is only to enrich themselves or to popularize themselves or to pursue their selfish interests, then you can be sure there's going to be a lot of that conflict. But if there is some semblance of harmony in terms of the caliber or quality or character of leaders we are electing, then you can be certain, because I want to give you an example. If I want to run, say, to become governor of Kiambu, yes, or any other place in this country, and my commitment or my vision is just to serve the people, and then the electorate across the county elects individuals on the same criteria. When we come together, we don't need to have been friends even last week. We can just sit, agree to work, and move and get work done. But if my interest is to enrich myself, then there's another guy who has an interest for Wanjiko, and there's another guy who has some interest for some cartels, and another guy who has some interest for another set of individuals, then believe me, that is recipe for chaos. So this kind of reports, I believe, will go a long way in also educating, and especially a conversation like this, so that Wananchi or Wanjiko down there can sit and critically now start analyzing. And especially when this performance rating is coming 9 years after the advent of devolution, it may help maybe certain areas or certain counties make better decisions. We are not saying that they made bad decisions, but this would go a long way in improving the quality of leadership we are electing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben Mulwa, who is the lead consultant at Insights Strategist Solutions Africa.
Yes.
And of course, we are expecting something else. Is something in the pipeline?
Yes, we have quite a number of things in the pipeline. I don't want to share details of that.
Okay.
But it is going to be very exciting. And as I have committed, we're also going to interrogate further some of the emergent issues in the research that we just presented.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have been talking about opinion polls and politics, how they shape politics in the country. Earlier on, we had Tom Ojanga, but he had to leave because of some commitments. And also we had Ngugi Diego Wilson, who is a former chief officer at the Tharaka County government via Zoom. Thank you so much for watching, but you do remember that today is the opening day, and we had our team on the ground to see what the situation is like. And some of the reports is that, of course, the fares are hiked, and they are complaining about the fuel, and the vehicles are few, but the students and travelers are quite a number. Let's see how the situation is on the ground.
School imekuwa hectic day, busy roads. Yeah, but tunaomba kupata gari mostly na safe journeys too. Yeah.
Shida yako ni shida ya magari. Sababu ukiangalia kwa stage hakuna watu wako wengi, lakini magari yasiko.
Leo siku nzuri. Fare imepanda sana. Sisi leo tunalipa 1000 na tunalipaga 500. Tumesinywa kidogo.
Challenge imekuwa kwamba fees imepanda na tena break imekuwa kidogo sana, such that we were not able to kupata pesa ambazo zilikuwa zilipe fees. na kwa sababu hiyo tunawarudisha na madeni. We hope hawatarejeshwa nyumbani tena.
Leo challenge imekuwa ni the fare. I have 2 kids wenye wanasoma Limuru na kuna wengine wanasoma Mombasa, so there is a challenge ya fare going and the logistics pamoja na shopping plus the school fees within these short periods imekuwa challenge to us who are common wananchi.
Sasa tunapepa normal capacity na demand sasa iko juu, na demand ikienda juu mpaka bei nayo ipande, inaendanga tu hivyo kwa biashara.
Tumeongeza na ngapi leo?
Kama saa hii sasa tumeongeza karibu 100%, from 500 tuna charge 1000. Yeah, that is the point.
Well, you've had it yourself, from 500 to 1,000 and just that one route. It's quite a scene, but we are hoping that the team at the Continental House will actually come up with some better deliberations on the fuel prices and petroleum products, because it's really stressing Kenyans. Thank you so much indeed for watching. My name is Ben Troinjue, and we have been having Lucy Maura as our sign language interpreter. We began with Lensa Odingo. Thank you so much for watching. Let's continue this conversation on social media.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hii ya heshima, bonyeza *811 *817 hash.
Ukiwa mtu wa heshima utaheshimiwa. Ukiwa mtu wa kupeana nawe utapewa. Ukiwa wewe ni wa kudharau wengine utadharauliwa. Ukiwa wa chuki malipo ni yale yale. Ikiwa wewe ni mtu wa haramu vile itakupata tu. Na kama wewe ni mtu wa kushauri kwa hekima hautawahi kosa. Kama wewe ni mtu wa watu.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya heshima, kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza *811 *817 hash, *811 *817 hash.